Today is Sunday, August 17th, and this is another update on my progress of beating the S&P 500 along with Bill Ackman's Pershing Square holdings. I do make these videos every Sunday and Tuesday, so if you want to follow along, hit that subscribe button and let's get into it. As you can see, since my last update, my portfolio saw a decline of 0.84%, Pershing Square saw a gain of 1.8, and the S&P 500 saw a gain of 0.06, which brings us year to date. My portfolio is at a gain of 26.98, Pershing Square is at a gain of 17.45, and the S&P 500 is at a gain of 9.9. We'll start off with the events for this week. You'll see that the only day that we have anything scheduled is going to be for Thursday, and on that day we're only going to get the initial jobless claims along with the existing home sales, so it should be a fairly quiet week for the events on the schedule. And if we take a look at the earnings calendar for the stocks that I follow, you'll see that we only get 4 this week. Home Depot and Laser Photonics reports on Tuesday, Lowe's is going to report on Wednesday, and Walmart, which is the only one of these in my portfolio, reports on Thursday. I'd say the most important one is going to be Walmart, which will give us a good read on the state of the consumer, since there's definitely a lot of people that shop at Walmart for their low prices, and that one is going to be this Thursday, and they're going to report it before the market opens. And if we take a look at the SPY chart, you'll see that since my last update on Wednesday, the stock market did rally a little bit before trading flat on Thursday, before ultimately going down a little bit on Friday. If we take a look at the 5 and the 15-day moving average, you'll see that the SPY price is still above the 5-day, and both of those still remain above the 15, which is good for the markets because ever since the SPY price crossed above the 5-day back on August 5th, it has come close to crossing below it a few times, but it's remained above it. And where the SPY price is right now is still currently above that longer term green trend line that we talked about in my last update that started in 2018. And if the SPY price were to fall back to that level, it would be a 0.79% decline from where we're currently trading at. And I'm going to wait and see what the markets look like on Monday and Tuesday because I've decided to keep my cash balance still right at 20% of my portfolio. And I'm waiting for what I think is going to be the best time to invest that 10% that I mentioned in my previous update and get my total cash on hand down to 10%. These are going to be all 14 of my current positions. Right now, Nvidia, Microsoft, Palantir, Meta, and Welltower make up my top 5, and those make up 37.97% of my portfolio. I mentioned it earlier, but Walmart, which is my smallest position, does report their earnings this Thursday. I don't have any plans to increase that position prior to earnings. Unless I go ahead and increase all of my positions by 10%, then obviously I'll go ahead and do that. Palantir saw a few negative trading sessions, so that has now moved down in a 3rd place and has been replaced by Microsoft, which now sits at number 2. My gains in Palantir are quite high still. Right now they're at 78.68%, and then Dave did have a few good trading sessions in a row, so that's now at a 73.7% gain. That is my 3rd smallest position at 4.25%, but I did trim it when it was my number 2 position and it had a much larger gain. So that's why that looks a little bit out of place for my 3rd smallest position and be one of my biggest gainers. And then PayPal continues to be PayPal, and right now it's at a 13.93% loss, which is pretty much exactly where it's been over the last few months. It was starting to see a little bit of momentum before they reported their earnings, in which time I saw my losses get right around 5%. And even though they reported what I thought was decent earnings, the share price did fall back pretty much right to where it was trading previously. And that position is pretty much the one exception. If I did increase all of them by 10%, I would exclude at least PayPal. And the only other one that I think I would exclude is Costco, which I do think is a great company, but just lately it hasn't had the momentum that it had previously. And I think the money that I would put into those 2 positions could definitely be better utilized, potentially adding a little bit extra to either Spotify with a 41.63% gain or Shopify with a 30.78% gain. Right now I have 79.01% of my portfolio invested, which leaves me with 20.99% sitting in cash. At some point that will get down to 10% cash. I'm just not exactly sure which day it's going to be. If the markets do open lower on Monday, there's a good chance that that's going to be the day that it happens. And if the markets do open higher on Monday, I'll keep an eye on it and watch how the markets open on Tuesday, because I definitely don't want to wait too long and miss my opportunity. That's going to do it for today. I do make these videos every Sunday and Tuesday, so if you want to follow along, hit that subscribe button and I'll catch you on Tuesday.